Throughout history, some of the most unsettling moments have been caught on camera, only to vanish without a trace. Some were hidden, destroyed, or simply never released to the public. In this video, we'll explore some of the darkest and most mysterious cases of lost media in history. The morning of March 24th, 1998, began like any other aboard the Rhapsody of the Seas, a Royal Caribbean cruise liner sailing toward Curaçao in the Dutch Caribbean. But for the Bradley family, that morning turned into a nightmare. Amy Lynn Bradley, a 23-year-old recent college graduate with her whole life ahead of her, had vanished without a trace. Amy had just graduated from Longwood University with a degree in physical education. She had already lined up a job with a computer consulting firm for that fall. To celebrate her achievements, Amy, her parents Ron and Iva, and her younger brother Brad boarded the Rhapsody of the Seas on March 21st, 1998, for a family cruise vacation. 2 nights into the cruise, on March 23rd, Amy and Brad decided to stay out late and enjoy the ship's Mardi Gras nightclub. A local band called Blue Orchid was performing. There's video footage from that night, now well known online, showing Amy dancing with one of the band members, Alistair Douglas, who went by the nickname Yellow. This short clip is the last known footage of Amy Lynn Bradley. Amy and her brother eventually made their way back to the family's cabin. Sometime around 5:30 a.m., their father Ron awoke and saw Amy sleeping on the balcony chair outside their room. Just an hour later, she was gone. No note, nothing except for her cigarettes and lighter. Her family was alarmed immediately. They asked the ship's crew to delay disembarkation in Curaçao. They begged them to make an announcement over the loudspeakers, but the ship's staff told them it was too early to raise the alarm. They didn't want to disturb the other guests. It wasn't until 7:50 a.m., nearly 2 hours after Amy disappeared, that a vague and quiet announcement was made asking Amy to report to the purser's desk. That was it. No photo or no description, just a name in the air. And then the ship docked in Curaçao. Over 2,000 passengers disembarked, free to leave with no searches and no restrictions. Amy could have been taken off that ship right then, and no one would have known. An extensive search followed, both on the ship and on land. The Bradley family, crew members, the Dutch Caribbean Coast Guard, and even the FBI searched Curaçao and the cruise ship for any sign of Amy, but nothing turned up, not a single piece of physical evidence. The most widely believed theory is that Amy Lynn Bradley was kidnapped and trafficked, and this theory has disturbing circumstantial evidence behind it. The night before she vanished, all the photos of Amy that had been taken by the ship's photographer had mysteriously disappeared from the public display area. It's a cruise ship tradition. Photographers roam the ship taking pictures of guests, which are then printed and displayed for sale. Amy and her family had their pictures taken like everyone else, but when they went to check, Amy's photos were gone. The photographer had no memory of what happened to them. All the other guests' pictures were still there, only Amy's were missing. Then there were the crew members themselves. Amy had complained during the cruise that she felt uncomfortable with how much attention she was getting from the staff. One waiter in particular had been giving her the creeps. On one occasion, he invited Amy to leave the ship with him when they arrived in Aruba. Amy turned him down, but she told her parents about the exchange. It left her feeling uneasy. That same waiter would later tell Amy's parents he hoped she would join him in Aruba anyways. When Amy went missing, the ship's captain refused to distribute her photo to other passengers, claiming it would disturb them. Band member Yellow, the last person seen dancing with Amy, told Brad he was sorry about what happened, even though only security and Amy's family knew she was missing at that point. It felt like he knew something he wasn't saying. Over the years, there have been multiple sightings of Amy. The first major one came just 5 months later. A Canadian man claimed he saw a woman resembling Amy in a cafe in Curaçao. She was with 2 men who looked like handlers. The woman kept trying to make eye contact with the man, and at one point looked at him directly and mouthed, "Help me." He later saw Amy's missing person poster and swore it was her. He said he was 100% certain because of the woman's distinctive tattoos. Then, in 1999, a US Navy officer came forward with a disturbing story. He said he had seen Amy in a Caribbean brothel, where a woman told him she was being held against her will. At the time, he didn't report it. He was afraid of being disciplined for being in a brothel. But after retiring, he came forward. By then, the brothel had burned down under mysterious circumstances. In 2005, a woman named Judy was in a restroom in Barbados when another woman entered, appearing frightened. She told Judy her name was Amy and that she was being kept there against her will. Before Judy could help her, two men burst in and dragged the woman away. And then there were the photos. In 2005, the Bradley family received images of a sex worker named Jas that were emailed to them. The resemblance to Amy was disturbing. The woman in the photos had similar features, body type, and tattoos. FBI analysts reviewed the images, and while they couldn't conclusively prove it was Amy, they also couldn't rule it out. To this day, the only confirmed video footage of Amy is the nightclub clip from March 23rd. That video was later made public by a YouTuber named Fenwick, in the hopes it would help the case. The crew's photos have never been found, and it's likely they are in the hands of people who don't want them found. On March 24th, 2010, exactly 12 years after she vanished, Amy Lynn Bradley was declared legally dead. She was 23 when she disappeared. If she's still alive, she'd be 50 today. On the morning of June 7th, 2016, 23-year-old Colin Scott and his sister Sable set off on what was supposed to be an exciting day trip through one of America's most iconic natural landmarks, Yellowstone National Park. The skies were clear, the summer air was warm, and the two siblings, close in age and in bond, were in search of adventure. Colin had just graduated from Pacific University in Oregon, just weeks prior. He had driven down from Portland to meet up with Sable, and the pair had made a spontaneous decision to visit the Norris Geyser Basin, one of the hottest and most active geothermal areas in Yellowstone. The Norris Geyser Basin isn't just another hiking trail or scenic outlook. It's a fragile and incredibly dangerous landscape, a place where boiling acidic water bubbles just inches beneath a crust so thin it can collapse under the weight of a single step. The park is covered in warning signs. There's no mystery as to why. Since 1890, at least 22 people have died in Yellowstone's hot springs. The temperatures can reach up to 199 degrees Fahrenheit, nearly boiling. And even worse, the water is often acidic enough to burn through flesh. Colin and Sable, however, ignored the warnings. They walked several hundred feet off the designated boardwalk, climbing up a small hill and wandering across an area that was strictly off-limits to all park visitors. Their plan was something called hot potting, a prohibited activity that involves bathing or soaking in the thermal springs. The practice is illegal for obvious reasons. It's deadly. Sable recorded everything on her smartphone. As they wandered through the restricted area, the siblings eventually came upon a hot spring that looked inviting, almost peaceful. Sable continued filming as Colin knelt down at the edge of the spring to check the water's temperature. And then, in one sudden moment, he slipped. The edge gave out beneath him, and Colin fell headfirst into the near-boiling pool. Within seconds, his body was submerged in water that reached approximately 93 degrees Celsius. That's 199 degrees Fahrenheit. The scalding temperature alone was enough to kill him almost instantly. Sable screamed. She tried to help, burning herself in the process, but there was nothing she could do. There was no cell service in the basin. In a panic, Sable left the area and ran all the way to the nearest building, Ranger Museum, to alert officials. By the time rangers returned to the spring, it was already too late. What they found were only partial remains, pieces of Colin's head, his upper torso, and his hands, but even those couldn't be recovered. A lightning storm was approaching fast, and the pool itself had risen to a full 100 degrees Celsius, the boiling point of water. The combination of intense heat, acidic water, and incoming weather made any recovery operation too dangerous to continue. They returned the next morning, but by then, it was over. Colin's entire body had dissolved overnight. The acidic water had reduced everything to nothing. Only a few personal items were left on the edge of the spring, his wallet and his flip-flops. Colin's death was ruled accidental, but that didn't make it any less horrifying. The news was devastating for his family, who described him as a top student and a wonderful person. As revealed later through a Freedom of Information request, Sable's smartphone had captured the entire sequence. From the moment the siblings left the boardwalk, to the moment Colin slipped into the spring, to her desperate and injured attempts to pull him out. Officials who viewed the video described it as deeply disturbing, so much so that even the video's transcript was censored in public reports. And although there is no known copy of the video circulating online, it is confirmed that the footage exists, locked away, unreleased, likely never to be shown, out of respect for the family and for the sheer horror it depicts. This incident also reignited conversations around visitor safety at Yellowstone. Officials once again emphasized the importance of staying on the boardwalks.
For other visitors, what is important for them to take from this?
Okay, I cannot stress this enough to everybody that's coming to visit. Please be sure you're staying on the boardwalks. Please stay on designated trails, don't shortcut trails.
Koh-Lanta is the French adaptation of the Swedish reality show Survivor. By 2013, it had become a massive hit in France, consistently pulling in millions of viewers. Its 13th season was set to be filmed on the tropical island of Koh Rong in Cambodia, promising an exciting new chapter for the show. But what should have been another thrilling season turned into a tragedy. The season kicked off in March 2013, with filming beginning on the 22nd. The contestants were ready, the island was set, and the first challenge was announced. Tug-of-war between two tribes, part of the so-called shipwreck event. Temperatures soared up to 40 degrees Celsius, an intense heat for such a physically demanding challenge. Among the participants was 25-year-old Gerald Babin, a man from Paris. Babin was of West Indian descent and known for his dedication to sports and bodybuilding. He was well liked for his kind personality and determined spirit. To even qualify for the show, Babin had passed several strict medical tests designed to ensure the contestants were fit for the grueling demands of survival in the wild. But during the tug-of-war, something went terribly wrong. Babin suddenly collapsed. He complained of arm cramps and urgently sought help. Dr. Thierry Costa, the show's 38-year-old medic who had worked on Koh-Lanta for 4 seasons, rushed to his side. Initially, Dr. Costa thought Babin was suffering from dehydration, a common issue given the intense heat and physical exertion. What happened next was far worse than anyone anticipated. Babin suffered 3 cardiac arrests, first during the challenge, then again during the emergency transfer, and the final time shortly after arriving at the hospital. Despite repeated resuscitation efforts, Babin died within minutes of arrival. The official story from TF1 and Adventure Line Productions, the company behind Koh-Lanta, was that Babin was promptly attended to, airlifted by helicopter to the hospital, and that everything possible was done to save him. But behind the scenes, a darker narrative began to emerge. An eyewitness who worked for Adventure Line Productions spoke anonymously to the media, painting a very different picture. According to this insider, Babin was already struggling from the heat before he collapsed. When he did collapse, the production team forbade Dr. Costa from intervening until the challenge had finished, delaying crucial medical aid by at least 10 minutes. Instead of immediately airlifting Babin to the hospital, the producers chose to transport him by a boat, reportedly to save money. During the boat ride, he lost consciousness again. Only then was the helicopter called in for an emergency airlift, but it took 2 hours from Babin's initial distress for the helicopter to arrive, in part because the crew didn't have the pilot's phone number or reliable communication devices. The eyewitness also claimed that Dr. Costa was forced to reenact his initial treatment on camera, raising serious ethical questions about how the tragedy was handled and portrayed. The production company denied these claims and announced plans to sue both the whistleblower and the media outlets reporting the allegations. Yet a second anonymous source came forward to confirm much of the same story, reinforcing claims of delayed medical assistance, communication failures, and a slow response that could have cost Babin his life. Tragically, just days later on April 1st, Dr. Costa was found dead in a Cambodian hotel room. He had decided to end his time on Earth. In a note, Costa defended his actions, insisting he had treated Babin as a patient, not a contestant, and expressed despair over the damage the accusations had done to his reputation. By July 2013, French prosecutors opened a criminal investigation into the production company, scrutinizing their handling of Babin's treatment. Adventure Line Productions sued Closer magazine for defamation over the published allegations, while Babin's family initiated their own legal action against the production company. In March 2014, the family lawsuit was settled, with Babin's family receiving several million euros in compensation. An autopsy had revealed that Babin suffered from a pre-existing heart condition called dilated cardiomyopathy, a disease that enlarges the left ventricle of the heart, restricting the muscle's ability to pump blood effectively. This condition, if untreated, can lead to heart failure, exactly what happened to Babin. Rumors circulated that Babin had taken anabolic steroids before the challenge, but toxicology reports cleared him of any such substances. The official cause of death was heart failure due to his undiagnosed condition. This outcome shocked many, considering Koh-Lanta's rigorous medical screening process. Experts suggested that an electrocardiogram and ultrasound should have detected Babin's heart condition during the medical exams. Eyewitnesses also provided conflicting testimonies. A nurse who was part of the medical team said Dr. Costa responded quickly, believing Babin only had arm cramps and dehydration. She insisted there were no early signs that Babin was about to suffer cardiac arrest, and that an electrocardiogram was indeed performed. Two contestants vouched for Dr. Costa's professionalism, though one of them admitted the response had been slower than ideal. Yet, within the show's control room, another eyewitness insisted the medical intervention had been delayed for filming reasons. These claims were denied by Koh-Lanta's director, who said Babin never collapsed, only sat down with discomfort. The director stated the doctor's care was prioritized over entertainment and denied any intentional delay. In April 2015, after a thorough investigation, both Adventure Line Productions and TF1 were fully acquitted of wrongdoing. In the days following Babin's death, the network cancelled season 13 altogether. All footage, including the tragic medical events, was handed over to investigators. Babin's death was the third on record in any Survivor adaptation worldwide. Season 13 remains the first and only cancelled season of Koh-Lanta. Later, season 19 would also be halted due to a SA allegation. Babin's family lawyer claimed footage shown in court in April 2013 excluded the medical intervention. He believed the producers had recorded the entire incident and demanded all footage be released. To this day, none of this footage, if it even still exists, has been made public. It seems almost certain that no images or videos from this unfinished season will ever surface. Formula One driver Jules Bianchi's story was one of talent and hope. He had scored Team Marussia's first ever points at the Monaco Grand Prix, finishing 9th, an achievement that caught the attention of Ferrari's top brass. According to former Ferrari chairman, Bianchi's impressive performances in Formula One, GP2, and Ferrari test sessions made him the leading candidate to replace Kimi Räikkönen in the future. He was viewed as a rising star destined for greatness, but on a wet and stormy day in Japan, everything changed. The 2014 Japanese Grand Prix was the 15th race of the season. Qualifying had put Bianchi 20th on the grid. That weekend, Typhoon Fanfone was bearing down on the region. Although forecasts predicted the storm would miss the Suzuka circuit itself, it still brought heavy rain and dangerous track conditions. Despite calls from drivers and teams to delay or postpone the race, the FIA and race organizers disagreed, and the race started at the usual time. From the very start, the track was drenched. Massive amounts of standing water created treacherous conditions, severely reducing grip and driver visibility. Just 2 laps in, the race was suspended for 20 minutes due to the heavy downpour. When it restarted, conditions improved somewhat, and the race proceeded without incident until lap 40. On lap 40, Sauber driver Adrian Sutil spun off at the Dunlop curve and crashed into the tire barrier. A tractor crane was dispatched to remove his car from the track. Double-waved yellow flags were deployed in the area, signaling drivers to slow down significantly and be prepared to stop. On the very next lap, Jules Bianchi approached the Dunlop curve at roughly 132 miles per hour, dangerously fast given the double-waved yellow flags and the standing water on the track. As he entered the corner, Bianchi suddenly lost control of his car. In a desperate attempt to regain control, he pressed both the accelerator and the brake pedals simultaneously. Normally, this action would trigger a fail-safe system, cutting engine power to slow the car down. But the Marussia's brake-by-wire system was incompatible with this fail-safe mechanism, meaning the system failed to engage and the car didn't slow as intended. Bianchi's car veered off the track and collided violently with the left rear wheel of the tractor crane, which was still on the circuit. The impact was catastrophic. The car was severely damaged and Bianchi was rendered unconscious. Telemetry measured an impact force of about 254 Gs when Bianchi's helmet struck the sloping underside of the crane. Emergency crews rushed Bianchi to the medical center in Yokkaichi. The race was immediately red flagged and then ultimately abandoned after a second red flag due to the seriousness of the accident. Medical examinations revealed that Bianchi had suffered a diffuse axonal injury, a devastating traumatic brain injury that occurs from violent shaking or rapid acceleration and deceleration, tearing nerve fibers in the brain. Diffuse axonal injury is notoriously lethal. Roughly 90% of patients with this injury never regain consciousness, and the chances of survival are grim. Bianchi was placed in an induced coma. Over time, he showed signs of breathing independently and was stable enough to be transferred to the hospital in France, but he remained unconscious and critically ill. On July 17, 2015, Jules Bianchi died at just 25 years old, nearly 9 months after the accident. His death sent shockwaves through the motorsport world and led to significant safety reforms in Formula One. One major change was the introduction of the virtual safety car system, designed to ensure drivers slow down dramatically in dangerous areas, without the need for a physical safety car to be deployed immediately. The system instructs drivers to reduce speed by at least 35%, improving safety when hazards remain on the track. Additionally, Bianchi's accident accelerated the development and adoption of the Halo cockpit protection device. This titanium structure surrounds the driver's head, deflects debris away, providing crucial protection during crashes. It has since been credited with saving lives in multiple incidents. While amateur fan videos of the crash have surfaced online, despite repeated attempts by Formula One management to remove them for copyright violations, the official footage has never been made public. The onboard camera from Bianchi's Marussia and the track cameras positioned at the Dunlop curve were all withheld. The official explanation for this is one of respect. The footage is too disturbing and private to release to the public, considering the impact on Bianchi's family and the F1 community. However, there is also speculation that the FIA and FOM may wish to avoid legal or public relations issues by keeping the footage out of circulation. In 1920, the Fox Film Corporation had a hit in the making, a film meant to thrill audiences with danger and death-defying stunts. It was called The Skywayman, a pseudo-documentary that followed a loose story, but the real draw wasn't the plot. It was the stunts. Real airplanes and real pilots doing things no one had ever tried before on film. The star was Ormer Locklear, one of the most famous stunt pilots in the world at the time. Known for wing walking and daredevil aviation, Locklear had a reputation for pushing limits. His flying partner, Milton Elliott, was just as bold. Together, they had amazed crowds across the country in air shows and exhibitions, and now they were performing for the cameras. By 1920, Locklear was already famous for his flying, but also under immense pressure. His personal life was in turmoil. He'd recently learned that his contract with Fox would not be renewed. This would be his final film. He knew it, and the studio knew it. The last scene of The Skywayman was to be its most dramatic. A nighttime crash, simulated with flares on the wings of the aircraft, meant to make it look like the plane was on fire. Originally, this final stunt was supposed to be shot during the day, using red filters to fake the appearance of night. But Locklear, likely feeling like he had something to prove, insisted that it be done for real, at night, with full visibility, only from powerful studio arc lights and flares mounted on the wings of his plane. On the night of August 2nd, 1920, everything was set. The filming location was the Millfield No. 2, an airfield just outside Los Angeles. The biplane Locklear was piloting had been modified to look dramatic, with flares strapped to the wings. These were supposed to ignite and burn as the plane performed a dramatic nosedive. The spin, simulating a deadly crash, before pulling up at the last second and flying off into the night. A large crowd had gathered to watch. Journalists and photographers, members of the public, and Locklear's own girlfriend, silent film actress Viola Daena. She watched from below, smiling proudly at first, unaware of what would happen next. Before takeoff, Locklear and Elliot gave specific instructions to the crew. The arc lights that lit the airfield, massive floodlights, were to be shut off once the plane began its descent. The darkness was supposed to signal to Locklear how close he was to the ground. It was a safety measure, but the crew never turned the lights off. Blinded by the glare of the lights and disoriented by the flares, Locklear and Elliot misjudged their altitude. From the ground, everything looked spectacular. The plane was spinning, trailing fire, diving like it had been hit in battle. But Locklear didn't realize how fast the ground was rushing up to meet him. There was no last-minute pull-up. The plane slammed into a sludge pool near an oil well just beyond the field. Both Locklear and Elliot died instantly. Spectators screamed. Viola Daena was reportedly frozen in horror as the man she loved died in front of her eyes. The film crew, the crowd, and even members of the studio were in shock. But what happened next made the Skywayman infamous. Fox Film Corporation already had the rest of the movie finished. Only that one last scene, the crash, had been left to film, and now it had happened, for real, on camera. The studio made a choice. Instead of scrapping the footage, they used it. Locklear's actual death, the crash, the fire, the aftermath, was left in the final cut of the Skywayman. And not just subtly, it was advertised. Posters and promotional material were explicit. Every inch of film showing Locklear's spectacular and fatal last flight, his death-defying feats, and a close-up of his crash to Earth. Fox wasn't hiding what they were doing. They were selling a death. Audiences at the time were stunned. Not only did they witness breathtaking aerial stunts, but many also realized what they were seeing on screen was real. A man had actually died in front of the camera, and the footage was left in. Viola Daena's grief was captured on camera too. Her horrified reaction, filmed just moments after watching her boyfriend die.
Somebody picked me up I started to run for the plane, and somebody said, grab her and take her home. And I guess I was just kind of crazy. I couldn't believe what had happened. And when you're young, those things are very shocking. I don't even like to talk about it.
The film premiered in Los Angeles, and for a brief time, it was a sensation. The public was curious, disturbed, and fascinated. The idea that a man's final moments had been preserved on screen and sold as entertainment was both shocking and morbidly compelling. The Skywayman became one of the earliest films to include the death of a cast member in the final cut. Today, no known footage of the film survives. All that remains are a few production stills, grainy black and white photos of the set, and some promotional ads. There are also surviving images of the wreckage, the broken remains of the plane at the crash site. In 1980, a 13-part documentary called Hollywood, a celebration of the American silent film, aired on TV. Episode 5, Hazard of the Game, details Locklear's final stunt and includes interviews with people who knew him, along with still photos of the crash. Film historians believe the Skywayman was likely lost in the 1937 Fox Vault fire, a massive blaze that destroyed nearly 75% of Fox's silent-era film archive. Because of how early it was released and how volatile the nitrate film stock was, it's possible the only copies ever made were stored at Fox and destroyed in that fire. Despite efforts, including attempts by the creators of Traces of Death, a controversial shock film series that tried to track down the footage, no version of the Skywayman has resurfaced. Former Locklear was 28 years old when he died. Today, few know his name, but in 1920, he was the famous man who flew for the movies and paid the ultimate price. That was the end of this video. If you enjoy this content, you can watch this video that YouTube thinks you will enjoy, or subscribe for more similar content. Thank you for watching, stay safe, and until next time.